My name is Sandra Lerman. I'm 53 years old, and round about a year ago I discovered I had tinnitus. I was away on holiday and I was walking down a very large mall towards the White House in Washington DC with my husband, and there were lots of noises. It was a very busy mall. There was birds, there was cars, there were people, all sorts of different noises. It was quite near the river as well, so we could hear the sound of the river noises, the boats and everything. And yet through it all there was a hum. It sounded like a refrigerator motor. And I turned to my husband and I said, "Can you hear that funny noise?" And I remember him looking and saying, "What funny noise?" And I explained it. He said, "No." And we'd only just landed in Washington a couple of days ago, so I thought maybe it was just my hearing had gone a bit funny from the flight, so I didn't think anything more of it. And it didn't bother me at all until we got home, and about a week after arriving home, I could still hear this same noise. And I knew it was the exact same noise because what I've since learnt is tinnitus doesn't change, or it can modify, but once you've got that sound, that's your sound. And I thought, this is not very pleasant. I'm going to go to the doctor and see what can be done. Maybe I've got an infection, because even at that time I didn't think I had tinnitus. And the doctor said to me, "Well, she checked my ears, you've got quite a clear ear, so I'm sure that it's not an infection. But you've said to me you've just got back from a flight. Well, it can take a few weeks for you to properly clear your hearing from the pressure change." And I thought that was weird, because I've flown many times over my many years, and that didn't ring true to me. But you believe your doctor, don't you? And that was probably the first of many mistakes, is putting my faith in my GP. We can put our faith in GPs for many things, but what I have learnt is that putting your faith in GPs when you've got hearing difficulties is not the best plan. So I went away, did nothing, and things were getting worse, because now the sound on my head was getting louder and louder. So I went back to the GP. And I said, "I don't think it's anything to do with the aeroplane. I can hear this sound all the time and it's very loud." At that point she said, "Oh, well, it's obviously tinnitus then, and you've got to live with it," in a very dismissive, very offhand manner. And I came out thinking, tinnitus, I know all about tinnitus. My mother has tinnitus. How do I live with it? How do I shut off this noise that's with me 24/7? But she wasn't prepared to give me the answers. So I spoke to my husband and we decided, right, I couldn't sleep. Let's get some sleeping tablets and see if we can at least help me to sleep. I say we because we did discuss everything together, and he thought that was a good idea. I got a prescription for the sleeping tablets, and it was only about a week's worth. I slept okay, but I thought I needed more. So I wanted to go back to the doctor. Now, what I need to say is, between going back to this doctor and starting the sleeping tablets, I had a moment when the tinnitus was so loud, it would make me cry, it would make me scream, it would make me put my hands on my head as if I was like seeing something horrific, and shout, "Get out, get out, get out." My family didn't know what to do, how to calm me down, and one day, it was a Saturday, I was in my car and I was driving actually towards a shopping centre where there was by a flyover, and I just thought, if I keep driving off this flyover, I will get peace. I will never have to hear this noise again. And as I was driving, I put my foot down on the accelerator and I was speeding up, and I thought, I'm going to do it. And then into my mind flashed the images of my two daughters, and I thought, but if I do it, I'll never see them get married, have children, because they're young adults. I don't want that. And I took my foot off the accelerator, and instead of going off the bridge, I went over the bridge and into the shopping mall. And when I got back, I was sobbing hysterically, as I told my husband, and we decided, forget sleeping tablets, forget everything. We're going to pay, and we're going to find a private GP, because we thought maybe if you pay, you'll get a bit more time and attention. That was mistake number 2, because she was even more cold and even more offhand and even more unsympathetic than the first doctor I'd seen a couple of times. So the next day, right, we're going back to the GP to get another prescription for sleeping tablets. Now this doctor changed my life because she said the words that everybody with tinnitus needs to hear. Not, you've got tinnitus, go away and live with it. She said, you've got tinnitus. That is a horrible thing to have to live with, but you can learn how to live with it. You just need to find the right person to help you learn. I burst into tears when she said that and clung to her and then looked at her and went, oops, sorry, that's not usually what I'm like. But she understood. And I said to her, well, what about an ENT specialist, thinking ear, nose and throat? She said, good idea. I went to see somebody who I had actually been seeing for my throat, because I had an issue with my throat. And he put me in touch with Bridget. Now, he was also very sympathetic. He was also very understanding and calm. And he gave me belief that whilst tinnitus cannot be cured, and certainly with the medical knowledge we have in so many areas today, we are as far away as we could ever be from being able to cure tinnitus. And what happened for me was he gave me the direction. First, this one GP told me to go and see him. Now he gave me this next direction, and I began to understand that I have to live with this, but I know there are going to be ways I can live with it. And that's when I met Bridget. He works with Bridget very closely. Bridget was like a breath of fresh air. Not just her infectious personality, but the fact that she was calm, kind, and did not once look at a watch, a clock, a computer screen, what is the time, to hurry me up. She let me talk, and then she talked, not at me, but to me. She showed me diagrams in pictures, on a board, on her computer, that described exactly what tinnitus was and how it was caused. That morning, I learned more about the very, very complex human auditory system. But she said it to me not in a condescending manner, but in a way that I totally understood. And it made complete sense, and I understood why, barring unbelievable miracles in medical science, I don't think we will ever be able to cure tinnitus. I think it is incurable, but you can definitely manage it. And what she did in the second hour after giving me some tests was give me the management strategies. So she encouraged me to do yoga classes. She encouraged me to find a way of meditating, and I've since downloaded several different apps, and I have my favourite app. She discussed cognitive behavioural treatment. She gave me strategies like suggested when, instead of relying on sleeping tablets at night, buy little speakers that you can have under your pillow, and then you can play music, gentle music. I downloaded all those sorts of wishy-washy elevator type music or that you hear in these health and beauty salons, you know, the sea whooshing in the background, anything that is calming, because you need to be able to fight tinnitus, to be calm. And there were other suggestions, like never be alone in a room that's quiet, turn the television on, have the radio on. And basically she said I have to teach my brain to drown out the sound, to ignore it. And she explained it very simply. She said people who buy a house on a railway line, when they first move in, will always hear the noise of the trains coming by. She said within 6 months or a year, they don't hear it, because their brain gets so used to it that it understands that it's an irrelevancy. It's not a noise that it needs to in any way analyse or take notice of. And we do this automatically with probably 90% of the noises that we hear, as Bridget taught me. But tinnitus is a very different noise, and your brain doesn't know how to deal with it. So she taught me that you have to tell your brain it's not something to be frightened of. It's not something that you need to be have your adrenaline running high around your body, which is exactly what happens when you first get it, and what does lead to people, and people have committed suicide because of it, because they haven't had the strategies. So I took all these strategies on board, and I went away, and we had a plan to meet after 6 weeks. As I left, I burst into tears again and gave her a hug, And I said, this seems to be becoming a pattern of mine, but it shows the emotion that tinnitus does bring out in people. And it's all because of this, as she explained it, flight or fight behavioural pattern. And tinnitus, initially, the way the brain deals with it, makes you fly. It doesn't make you fight. And the fleeing can manifest itself, as I said, in suicide, which is tragic, but doesn't need to happen if you get the right advice. So I went away and I decided I'm going to try and get a yoga class because I'm into yoga, and I'm going to try the meditation because I'm quite good at relaxing. I never did find a yoga class at the time that suited me. I did use the little speakers for the pillows for about a month. I did walk around and make sure that TV or radio was on all the time for about a month. The meditation helped me beyond a dream. And I came back to Bridget about 6 weeks later, and she said she could not believe the change in me from this sullen individual who felt insecure, frightened, like a rabbit in the headlights of an oncoming car. I walked in bubbly, my spine was straight, my head was up, the smile on my face was huge. And she said, I think I know what you're going to tell me, but how are you? And I said, I'm brilliant. Because in the short space of 6 weeks, I had learnt to conquer tinnitus. For most people, it doesn't take that short space of time. And she said to me, I was, after 6 weeks, where most people are after 9 months to a year. But that's me, I'm a fighter. You give me the tools, I'll fight. The problem was, and this is really my message, is very clear. If your GP says to you, you've got tinnitus, live with it. No, that is not the answer. You don't get told, live with it. You go back and you say, how do I live with it? Because there are strategies, there are ways of living with it. And yes, I still hear the tinnitus. It buzzes all the time, but it's an irrelevancy. It's not something that stops me doing anything. And in fact, a few months ago, I went to a rock concert to see Thunder. They were great. A few months' time, I'm going to see Nickelback. These are all sorts of activities that I love, and with the tinnitus unchecked, I couldn't enjoy, because what happens is your brain starts to play up the sound of the tinnitus, makes it even louder when you are in a very loud environment. And it then upsets you even more. So you have to tell it to be quiet, go away, you are not wanted. And you have to teach your brain. But the GPs don't understand that. And I'm not denigrating GPs, they're fantastic. But they are the first port of call when you have something wrong. And tinnitus is not something that's an illness that's going to kill you. It's not going to deform you. But it is something that you are going to have to live with for the rest of your life, however long that life is, because tinnitus can affect people of any age. It is not age exclusive. And you have to have the tools. So if your GP says you've got tinnitus, live with it, you turn around and you say, how? And like I did, I found the one GP who said, go to an audiologist or go to an ENT specialist. An ENT specialist will put you onto the audiologist. And you don't have to pay. You can do this all on the NHS. But Bridget was an absolute godsend. She was like my fairy godmother, because of her patience and her kindness and her understanding. And because she knows the strategies and she shared them with me. And that's why I'm sitting here today smiling a year on, and I can still hear the tinnitus now, but it's an irrelevancy.